Hello, welcome to PubShorts episode 38. Won't get fooled again. Tony, you and I are not going to get fooled again, ever, right? Because of
No,
AI.
I'm not going to get fooled again by wearing a shirt that's creased. This was I this morning. Looks all creased now.
All right, all right. My name is Dr. KK. I'm the innovation officer at Trinca and Inago, and I have with me Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hi, KK. I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm VP for partnerships here in Argo. Let me tell people what PubShots is. PubShots. I keep calling you PubShots. I don't know why. PubShots is a regular. I say weekly. We do more than one a week.
Yeah.
Episodic podcast, which looks at different aspects of publishing technology, and we discuss issues that may affect researchers, may affect publishers. And if you want to find more about PubShorts, you can go to LinkedIn and follow our channel and click like and do all the good usual social media things, or you can find us on YouTube as well.
Perfect, perfect intro. And Tony, why are we calling this Won't Get Fooled Again?
Well, thank you. You've named it after one of my favorite records in the world. uh, yeah, but it's how AI increasingly is improving, and so generative AI is improving, and how it's so important that academic research isn't fooled by AI.
Right, perfect. So this is based on the 1971 hit by The Who, Won't Get Fooled Again, and we are talking about both the pros and yeah, that's what Tony's holding up. Both the pros and cons of AI in our lives, and we'll start discussing discussing what we should do if suppose somebody were to uh, develop an automated solution for helping peer reviewers do the work. So Tony, if suppose you were to build a product like this, what would you do? Would you ask somebody something? I know you're smiling. All right, I'll get. I thought it was a
I'll
segue
let
that.
me answer that question while we talk about these papers.
All right, all right. So the first story that we're going to talk about, it is indeed a research article published in the Journal of Academic Ethics. So as I was hoping that Tony would respond, if you were to build a product, you would probably need to ask its users how they're going to use it, how they're going to use
That's
AI.
exactly what I'm going to say. I just thought I'd let you say it, KK.
Thank you, KK. So thank you, Tony. I don't know why I'm calling myself
You're
and you,
welcome,
KK.
KK.
Yeah. So this is titled "Exploring the Impact of Generative AI on Peer Review: Insights from Journal Reviewers."
Yeah.
So the title explains it. Journal reviewers are asked how they are using chatbots, generative chatbots like ChatGPT, and it is this is based on a questionnaire based survey. And unfortunately, Tony, only there were 12 participants alone, and the questions which I have opened in a window are these. For example, what inspired you as a reviewer to incorporate large language models into the reviewing process? What limitations have you observed while reviewing manuscripts? Do you believe LLMs can identify manuscript quality issues as effectively as humans? So, some of the sample questions. Tony, what do you think? Was the methodology right? And are these questions
Oh,
comprehensive
this
enough?
this 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 is very sound methodology. Having a ready set of questions. This applies to every subject area, every type of review.
Yeah.
So I think this particular aspect of the paper is hugely valuable.
Yeah, the 2 points that I noted was that primarily we are talking about chatbots, and chatbots may not be the best, I would say, form of generative AI or a
Right?
interface through which, in the sense, we can send structured questions to the AI to have answers instead of a plain sort of chat interface where the reviewer has to ask all the questions. So there could be some structure to it. That's a point that I was coming to. And the other limitations, I mean, we already mentioned the fact that only 12 respondents were there, and these are the 12 respondents. And unfortunately, the the spread of subject areas is not quite as vast as we would like. Most of it is from social sciences and humanities, and there are only some science, technology, and medicine editors from those subject areas. So one last thing, the conclusion, the overarching sort of conclusion is that AI is currently, or at least chatbot AI is not currently mature enough to do peer reviews. And if people are using it, there should be a proper human oversight step to it.
As
So
as we've said so many times.
yeah, so this is exactly what we've been discussing for over the last 37 episodes now.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you took away from this research?
No, I think you just reinforced the importance of human oversight. Yeah.
Right.
At the moment, who
Right.
knows? It may well evolve.
Yes, but there are several other related stories. We have actually many detailed research papers related to peer review and AI use. So the second one that I'm talking about is an abstract published. Wait, where was it published? In I forget. Do you remember this Institute of Labor Economics discussion paper series? It is titled "Can AI Solve the Peer Review Crisis?" A large-scale experiment on LLM's performance and biases in evaluating economic papers. It's a very interesting topic in the sense that, Tony, we have an automation related to it that we are already working. I mean, we are offering for publishers. So let me just read quickly the summary of this paper. So this study tested if AI can help fix delays and shortages in economics peer review. So we are sort of bucketing ourselves into the field of economics, but it used over 9,000 paper submissions and about 27,000 evaluations. I guess each paper was evaluated more than once or thrice. So the findings was that AI is effectively ranks is able to effectively rank papers by quality. However, it shows
Yeah.
biases favoring top institutions, male authors, and well-known economists. So
Mm.
I'll pause here. What I understood from this is that the AI was asked to categorize papers according to quality, the research quality. So it's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
bucketing system, and which is what I was mentioning, that we already are offering some services to publishers like this. So what are your thoughts so far?
We do offer services, not necessarily looking at the research quality. What we do, one of the services that we provide is, as you know, we have a language AI called Trinker. And one of the things that Trinker can do is to identify the quality of the language. So for very large publishers, what they want to make sure is that content isn't being over edited. So they want to make sure the most appropriate copy editor is given the paper. And what our scoring tool does as part of the production workflow is to score papers according to the quality of language and therefore the level of copy editing that's required. It doesn't go so far as assessing the research quality because peer review decisions have already taken place and decisions have been made. Yeah, this is good enough. The research quality is the right standard. Let's just make sure we fix everything else. So it's
Right.
the everything else that we're helping with.
Right. So once again, bringing back to the subject of the paper, the paper was provided multiple evaluations. Sorry, the AI was provided multiple evaluations of the same paper,
Yeah.
and it looked at its content. And some of the problems that we found, like the biases, are because of the information that it found, including the names of the authors and the institutions. So this is not quite a structured peer review. And one of the arguments, very interesting from my point of view, was that the current, because if AI is given some information, it might indirectly lead to biases and if results that we not want. So how do you hide it? And that's what blinding is in the context of peer review. But if suppose you were to look at, if you were to give AI especially information in preprints, we do not have sufficient blinding requirements, and AI might be shown information that might indirectly produce bias and unfavorable results. So, what are your
Mm.
thoughts on that? I mean, we need more blinding mechanisms, I suppose, for preprints and generally whatever data is available for peer review, what is
More
published.
blinding mechanisms for preprints, more agents to sort of verify the results of the previous
Mm.
LLM. There's any number of things that need to be done to ensure quality. But yeah, I mean, it is all going in a very, very interesting direction.
Right, right.
Uh,
So
Particularly for things like preprints, for example, where there is no traditional peer review. So having some kind of
yeah.
vetting mechanism is actually quite interesting.
All right, so we are going to another sort of deep research, but this is the most interesting one among the four papers that we are discussing in this episode. So this is a preprint submitted from the field, in the field of computation and language, computer science, in archive, titled "Hallucination Mitigation Using Agentic AI." Natural language based framework. So I have the paper open here as well, but I'll quickly read the main findings of the abstract before we go into the paper. This study uses multiple AI agents to address hallucinations. That's perfect. We have been talking about it. The cool thing that I noted was that they tried to induce hallucinations, but using a stepwise mechanisms to check for factual accuracy. They created a hallucination detection system or elimination system that eventually gave you the right output. So that is a thing, and they have introduced something called as key performance indicators for hallucination. So let me jump to this. we are talking about hallucination KPI. So these are the things that they use as KPIs: factual claim density, factual grounding references, fictional disclaimer frequency, and explicit contextualization score.
Wow,
So so yeah,
wow,
I mean, the fancy terms, but at the same time, this is exactly what, if you were to sort of give guardrails to AI and
yeah,
for it to, do what it can do, but also make sure that what it does is right. This is the mechanism that I would use. So
yeah,
I thought these KPIs were fascinating, and the empirical results show a dramatic drop in hallucination score from the front end agent through the second and third review. So they use multiple reviewers for these steps, as I mentioned. So,
mm.
Tony, we have seen, I mean, we don't need to go to the details of the study. Are you impressed overall, and what do you think of the KPIs?
Well, I'm impressed that the maths is so far over my head that it makes my brain hurt. But no, anything that will help a content producer or a content creator to minimize hallucinations, has got to be encouraged. I think tools like this approaches like this, I beg your pardon, will be used increasingly by publishers and by any content producer, peer review, anyone that's reviewing content will need to understand what they can do to minimize hallucinations.
Right. And one point that I failed to mention was that this system leverages structured OVON JSON messages for clear and natural language based inter-agent communication. That's
Yeah,
very important.
yeah,
Agents or computers communicate with each other not in human language but in structured language. And if
yeah.
suppose you're giving it giving agents instructions like this, we anybody could probably have much better sort of
Yeah.
results in terms of more accurate. This is what everybody wants, right? In all our conversations with everybody that we've been talking about, everybody wants accuracy, right? Especially in the context of review.
And with the cost of LLMs coming down as they have been, in China, for example, we're going to see much more application of sort of multi-agent approaches, so that you can increase the accuracy and the verify the accuracy of what you're producing.
Right. And so with that, we go to the next paper. It's another archive preprint in computer science. It is titled Transforming Science with Large Language Models, a survey on AI assisted scientific discovery, experimentation, content generation, and evaluation. So this is obviously it covers just about everything that one could do in the field of research, but using AI. So I'm going to just focus on the key aspects that I found. So the one of the things that we don't see, Tony, at least in this articles that we have discussed, is how AI can be used to cover literature search, at least at this level. So this has some details regarding it. So one of the things that it mentions, let me just, so it introduces a novel framework aimed at tackling challenging computational problems in this context of helping, using AI to help research. And it combines rigorous theoretical analysis, including detailed proofs and complexity assessments, with comprehensive experimental validation. This is what is different as far as I could understand. Again, it's a relatively dense paper. So, from whatever you've read so far in the abstract and in the paper, so what do you think? As in, is this helpful for somebody who's doing research, or is it helpful
Oh,
for researchers to understand how they can use AI?
yeah, well, gosh, the thing that surprised me was tools already exist to provide these sorts of services. When we have a tool ourselves, we have an Argo Read, which
Mm-hmm.
does exactly this. It assists with literature discovery. Okay, there may be things that we can do to tweak and enhance the service, but all in my mind, and maybe I'm reading this wrong. All this does is validates what we and others are already doing.
Yeah, so section 4 itself lists everything that I could find. It's a very valuable resource in terms of what we have already. And I think for anybody who's interested in knowing more, it's a very good read from that point of view. All these links, like for example, Google Scholar, Elicit, Notebook, LM, and all of these things that we have talked about in previous episodes or in other conversations, but
Yeah,
very sort of comprehensive overview of how AI can help in research across the research phases, in my opinion.
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. So these were our long form conversation. We have some quick hits. So the first one is a very
Mm,
interesting one from the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology, or abbreviated as FASEB.
yeah.
It is the recommendations for generative AI in biological and biomedical sciences. So the main thing I wanted to, I mean, what can you to tell the audience about FASEP and these kind of guidelines that it could publish. Like
Well, FATSEP is a number of federations that exist worldwide that represent individual societies within a particular subject area. So this particular area is experimental biology, and what FASEP is doing, one of FASEP's roles, is to provide guidelines for their researchers, for their societies to then recommend and follow.
yes,
And it's very timely. It's such an important area. How societies, how researchers should use, how policymakers, particularly funding agencies, should use a generative AI within their research decisions.
yeah, in biomedical research, and FASEP had convened a task
This is
force.
very specifically experimental biology. Yeah,
Yeah, yes. Convened a task force to develop recommendations for, as you said, experimental biology. The recommendations are targeted at U.S. federal agencies, and I thought it
yeah,
is relevant to us because we have been talking about U.S. federal, changes in after the Trump administration. So from that point of view, AI use we need guidelines like this, and so so these recommendations targeted at U.S. federal agencies, policymakers, institutions, scholarly societies, and individual researchers. So the main thing that I thought we should talk about are the themes. So they talk about policy and regulation, scientific integrity and intellectual property, data privacy and security, the diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion, which is a controversial topic as of now, and the workforce impact and training and education. So among these, I think from the point of view, I think scientific integrity, intellectual property, and data privacy and security are important. When we talk to publishers and institutions, and especially people who are working with the federal government in the U.S., we have to take care of all of these while we discuss and how we can showcase our products strengths. And right, Tony, that's what we would do. Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So interesting stuff. I think it's a good read for anybody who's interested in working in
Well,
that
I think when an organisation like FASEB speaks and makes a policy statement like this or guidelines like this, then the societies have to take this very seriously. Because this is considered to be best practice. And I'm thinking, if they haven't already, I think you'll see some of these other federations coming out with similar guidances because there's such huge differences in subject areas that we're
Mm.
going to see more pronouncements like this.
Right. So the next one is probably the most confusing thing, at least for me. I discussed this with Tony before the episode itself. So this is from the Scholarly Kitchen. It is titled "AI Rights Reservation: Human Readable is Machine Readable." An interview with Babis Marmanis. I think I am not trying to pronounce the actual first name. So this discusses AI rights reservation and text and data mining, which is abbreviated as TDM here. So
Yeah,
the thing that we are talking about is the EU directive, which states that there should be machine readable TDM guidelines in terms of whether machine readable statements are there for copyright related statements. And the argument made by the author and the person who is being interviewed is that because the human readable what is it directives or guidelines are also readable by machines, you do not need another sort of set of machine readable type of directives, as well as that the EU guidelines regarding what format it should be for machine readable statements
yeah.
is also varied. So what are your thoughts, Tony?
I think what this says, this is by the way two experts talking to each other. So if you're interested in copyright and the use of electronic texts, read this article. Roy is a I know Roy. He's a world known expert on publishing copyright. So if Roy and Babish speak, then we should all be listening. Now, the point I was making is that these text and data mining initiatives have been going around for a long time. I remember being involved in some of the very early conversations with the UK Publishing Association around some of the changes that were being made that led to things like the UK copyright law changing and the EU copyright law being developed. Is that whether it's human, whether it's machine read, the rules are the same. It's how that machine is being used, whether what sort of permissions are being obtained to do that, whether the rights are fully understood and being respected.
Mm.
So there should be no difference in terms of the rules themselves, the law itself. It's how you police it.
Yeah, and it mentions what are the things? Technologies like METS rights, METS rights, and ODRL are mentioned for
Yeah,
rights expression. This is, I think, a machine readable rights exception. I mean, it's that term itself is complex to say, but
yeah,
the point is, a machine can also read what humans can read, and hence you don't need it to be told in another language. And it's an interesting
yeah.
argument. I think for anybody who's in the field of AI and copyrights, as in they should be aware of what the EU is directing and what the arguments are in terms of whether there should be machine readable
Well, no,
rights.
I think the important thing for me about this is that okay, this is an indication that certain aspects of the legislation is catching up with
Mm-hmm.
itself to AI. Is is the researcher aware of the any rights restrictions for the content that they're using?
Mm-hmm.
And that's me, and that's why organisations like the CCC, the Centre for Copyright Control in the US, sorry, the Centre for Copyright Clearance, I should say, in the US, and others are so important. Every country that signed up to the World's Intellectual Property Organization agreement should have a national copyright centre.
Mm.
So if you have any questions at all, any doubts at all, there will be somebody in your institution that will know, and if they don't know, there will be somebody within their local WIPO office or local copyright rights centre that will. So if in doubt, always check.
Yes. So this is, I mean, the AI stories were relatively easy for me to understand. This is a little beyond that in terms of how copyrights,
Yeah.
right statements are the rules regarding and are so complex across regions. Finally, Tony, we have AI slop. We talked about slop as AI slop, if I'm not mistaken, as one of the words of 2024. So this is a story. This is a popular news story. AI slop is flooding the internet. This is how you can tell if an image is artificially generated. So this, I specifically brought this up because there is obviously computer generated images have been with us for many years now, but there could also be computer generated imagery in I guess academic research, and one should be aware of it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 So AI slop obviously is another term for AI generated poor quality content, and here we are talking about images like this, which is a fun. What is it? Lobster Jesus? Would you call it?
Yeah. Which I find deeply offensive. So let's move on.
All right. So such images have. How do you identify? There are four main things listed here. Uh, Look for details. Beware of distorted text. That is a classical thing. I think one of the things that everybody should be aware. If you are trying to make any textual images, as in images with text in them, you will have typos. At least as of now, generative AI. Then there'll
Yeah.
be problems with the shadows and reflections, and some things will be unnaturally flawless. So these are some of the things for any images. But my question to you, Tony, should researchers, because we have most researchers are working in large teams, and many would be getting images and data from other people. So we have talked about how we should be aware whether they are creating information, text, or data using AI, which is not permissible in the context of academic research for many journals and publishers. But should they be also aware of computer generated imagery?
I don't know if it's not permissible as long as the image accurately reflects the research. I mean, I think the concern have isn't necessarily what tools the researcher uses to create the image, as long as it's
Right.
reflective of the research. Um, so what you'll find, what should the researcher be aware of? The researcher should be aware of the fact that if you have used AI or anything else to manipulate or to falsify the image to not reflect accurately the research that you've done, or to falsify the research itself, you will be caught out. There are
Right.
tools that are in place and increasingly being used that will detect those instances. And if they're being detected, not only will they be withdrawn or will
Mm-hmm.
the paper be rejected, there's also a risk of possible retraction and
Right.
also a risk onto reputation if it's known that you're, as a researcher, producing false images. So be very, very careful.
Right, right. Thank you. I meant earlier with what I meant is forged data or created synthesized data is something that
Yeah,
one should be
yeah.
clear about. If at all you, I
But it's
mean,
just part of the bigger issue, KK. This is one particular thing. I think AI slop is
right.
ridiculous. It can be a fun thing to do, of course, as long as it's not
Yeah.
being used to support a serious research.
Right. Regardless, if you're using AI, you should know what your publisher or journal should know, and you have to. If suppose you're using it, I think you'll still have to state, and that's one of the things that we talked about in the
Oh,
previous episode, that you
absolutely. Yeah,
you have to
yeah, yeah,
state
yeah.
what tool you have used and what
So when
prompts you've
when
used.
when you're when you're submitting a paper, understand your journal's guidelines and what they expect, what they expect of you as a researcher.
Right, right. So that brings us to the end of PubShorts episode 38. Don't won't get fooled again. So Tony, I hope that with all these hallucination related things, peer review enhancements using AI, we I'm hoping that people will less likely get fooled again because of AI related, let's say, slop.
Good
So
one.
well, how can people find more about, let's say, your likes and dislikes in music, including how many records you have
Oh,
of
I
of
don't,
the
I don't want to talk about that. But no, if they want to contact me or recommendations, suggestions for future topics, and thank you, by the way, for everyone who's sent in suggestions so far, they can contact me at tonyo@anago.com, and KK and I are both on LinkedIn, so you can find us there.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon, as well as share. If suppose you're interested in knowing more about AI slop, please, or telling people about AI slop, please share it with your friends or colleagues so that they'll be aware of what to do when they might be facing with such computer generated imagery. So with
Exactly.
with that, Tony, let's say goodbye, and we will see everyone in the next episode. So bye, Tony.
Episode 39.
Yes,
Over.
very soon, hopefully. Bye.
Bye.